Good morning. Everybody's
Good
muted.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Should our participants start to log in any minute?
Great. I will mute myself and stand by. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting on our chairperson to join and get things started. Hello, Mr. Watts.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. Thank you.
Good, good. Good.
Hydrating.
Happy Thursday.
Good day in government. Good day in government. We've been at it since 8 o'clock this morning.
Oh my.
Yes. All right. So my team got it. Daniel. Hello, Chair. How are you?
Looks like we have our chair, but he is muted.
Sorry, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Sorry, just running a little behind. Get my things situated here. Okay, I will start with a call to order for the Tip Workers Coordinating Council meeting. And let's do a roll call. Sorry, my computer is being a little slow.
Daniel, can the team do the roll call for the chair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start our roll call. Monica Palacios, Office of Human Rights.
Present.
Tracy Javier, representative for district-based organization that engage in policy or advocacy for tip workers.
Present.
Susan Free Hoffman, another representative from district-based organization that engage in policy or advocacy for tip workers. No Zach yet. Jennifer McCahill, the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture.
Present.
Jonathan Cole, Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs.
Present.
And Alan Karnofsky, Department of Employment Services.
Present.
And we have others in attendance, Larry Villegas Perez, did I say that correctly? The Office of Human Rights?
Yes, present.
Awesome. Is that all for today? We got our staff in attendance. We have Mr. Michael Watts, Associate Director from Wage Hour. I'm Daniel King. I am his deputy and the supervisor for the Office of Wage Hour. We also have Ms. Jamaica Ingram. She is one of our compliance specialists for Wage Hour. And Tom Gay, Ralphine Pugsley, and Asia Ford, as part of our tip team, are off screen. They are in the room.
Mr. Chair, I believe you have a quorum.
Thank you. There's one more name here that I do not recognize. Miss, is it Cherie Price?
Yes, Cherie is a program manager in the Office of Wage Hour.
Okay,
She is
I'm sorry.
not in the room, but she is on the call.
Got it. Thank you. Great. Welcome, everyone. We will, next order of business is to approve the previous meeting's minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes
Motion to approve.
and a second?
I second.
The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. We will open now for public comments. If there are any public comments. Another second or two. Fantastic. Let's move on to our third order of business. A presentation of, Office of Human Rights functions and their role in the enforcement of the Tip Wage Workers Fairness Amendment Act. Mr. King or Mr. Watts?
That Office of Human Rights may proceed. We're Wage Hour.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, this is Monica, the Director of the Office of Human Rights, and Mr. Larry Villegas Perez is our tipped wage workers manager, program manager, and he's prepared to give the presentation.
Mr. Villegas Perez. You are on mute, sir.
Can you hear me now? The most used question nowadays. Can you hear me now? Thank you. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see the screen correctly. Oh, sorry. Can you see it okay? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So, good morning, Mr. Chairman and office directors, government and non-government appointed members, and especially anyone in the general public and community members that may be with us this morning. Thank you for taking time of your schedule to be in today's coordinated council. I'm going to briefly present the role of the Office of Human Rights. And I want to thank our attorney advisor, Thomas Deal, and our Director of Communications and Community Engagement, Stephanie Franklin, for working with me on putting together this presentation. I am Larry Villegas Perez. Though many people know me as Larry VP, I am the program manager of the TIP Workers Fairness Program. And if you are curious about the acronym, TWWF or TWF sounds tough, and tough as a strength. So we're going with that. Okay. The mission of the Office of Human Rights, as you may know, is to eradicate discrimination, increase equal opportunity, and protect civil rights through enforcement. We enforce not only the Civil Rights Act of 1977, but also some other local and federal laws and statutes as they relate to employment, housing, public accommodation, and educational institutions. Now, really, what's the role of OHR in the Tip Wage Workers Fairness Amendment Act of 2018? We read and read and read and clicked and linked all the sections of the law to make sure that we had a good understanding. And although there are some gray areas where I know that the Department of Employment Services and us will be collaborating very closely, like the website and other matters, it is important to know exactly what we are doing to help those who work in DC and receive tips as wages. So OHR's primary role is to create sexual harassment training and certify outsider vendors to provide anti-sexual harassment training to employers who employ one or more tip wage workers in DC. In preparation for that, we are also consulting groups that represent victims, workers, and employers regarding the content of the training as per the law, as well as including, but not limited to, how to respond, intervene in, and prevent sexual harassment by coworkers, management, and customers. So with that in mind, who has to take the anti-sexual harassment training? All employees at a business that has one or more tip wage workers must take the training within 90 days of being hired or within 2 years of the effective date of the law's training provision. Now, it is important to mention that if somebody works at one place and within 2 years they go to a second place, that training that they took is still valid. Also, managers, owners, and operators must attend the training every 2 years. Now, does anybody track who has completed the training? So the law is very specific that employers must submit to OHR a certification for each employee who completes the anti-sexual harassment training within 30 days of the training. Now we're going to be working with employers to make sure that that is a very easy task. OHR will keep those records for 5 years. And we are creating a training platform to facilitate employers' registration and submission of documentations and certifications. Now, How else is OHR involved in the program? Because that is not the only task, but is the main one. We're going to collect sexual harassment documentation and reports, raise awareness on employees' rights and benefits, and conduct investigations and enforcement through confidential mediation. Now, what does that mean? Regarding collecting documentation and reports, employers must document sexual harassment instances reported to them, including the identity of the alleged harasser. That means if the person is a manager, an owner, operator, a non-managerial employee, or even a customer. The employer must submit by December 31st an annual report to OHR, and it must specifically identify the number of instances reported to them and the alleged harasser role as it is involved in the business, like I stated before, manager, owner, operator, or a non-managerial employee or a customer. OHR will use a very easy and user-friendly platform to collect annually the reports on claims made to management and the role of the alleged harasser to the business. Now, we also do awareness. And now you see there, got tips, got rights. That's exactly where we want to go with this, to make sure that everybody who receives tips as wages also know that they have rights and benefits. That said, and it is very interesting that the city council and the mayor agreed that those laws that we usually see on employment areas can be very easily can be written very easily and also that way to be understood. So what I'm trying to say is, instead of the regular poster with all the legal documentation, let's present it in an easier way for people to know if they have been discriminated against or not. So they have the right to work and remain free from discrimination, to work in a harassment-free, including sexual harassment, environment, to qualify for unpaid family and medical leave, to request time off to attend a child's school-related activities, to accrue and use paid sick and safe leave. And this is very important nowadays when we are trying to maintain not only safety, physical, but also psychological and even economic. To be accommodated in the workplace during pregnancy. To remain free from employer retaliation for discussing or exercising any of these rights. And to file a complaint for violation of workplace human rights with the Office of Human Rights and violations on wages to the Department of Employment Services. Now, as you see it, businesses must comply with the district labor law universal notice requirements, all the posters that we usually see. So what you saw before was the easier way for people to see if any of their rights were violated. Now what we see is exactly what those bullets that I presented before are reflected in the law. It includes or is covered by the Office of Human Rights Act, the DC Family and Medical Leave of 1990, the Parental Leave Act, the Universal Paid Leave Act of 2017, the DC Protecting Pregnant Workers Fairness Act of 2015, the Tip Wage Workers Fairness Amendment Act, and I am sure that we are going to add very soon the COVID-19 protection law. Now, these are not the only laws that we at the Office of Human Rights enforce. There are others that are also related to employment that we cover, which are Fair Credit, In Employment Act, Employment Protection for Victims of Domestic Violence, Sexual Offenses, and Stalking Amendment Act, DC Unemployment and Anti-Discrimination, DC Fair Criminal Record Screening Amendment Act, DC Fair Criminal Record Screening for Housing Act. So those are others that we also enforce. And we just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that we have a comprehensive way of looking at how DC wants to protect the residents and people who work here in DC. Now, remember, our mission is to eradicate discrimination, to increase equal opportunity, to protect civil rights through enforcement in areas covered by employment, housing, public accommodation, educational institutions. So, got tips, got rights. If anybody needs more information, my name is Larry Villegas Perez. I'm the program manager of the TOF division or the TOF program. This is my email, larryvillegasperez@dc.gov. You can also visit our website, ohr@dc.gov. And if you have any questions, this is our telephone number. And we're implementing another email for people to actually give us either tips on what's happening in their businesses or actually make an anonymous tip or ask questions, which is tipsdc@dc.gov. So thank you very much for your time. And now if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas, we are all ears. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Excuse me. Are there any questions for the Office of Human Rights?
I have a question. You guys said you're creating a platform to facilitate employers' registration and such things. When will this platform be done?
So we are on phase 1, which is actually to enter sexual harassment policies, claims, and any numbers. And then the second phase will include the documentation on training. So we're doing different tasks at the same time. We're consulting the community, we're building the platform. So we expect that, and I am very pushy on this one, to have something ready before the end of the fiscal year. And I know that this is very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ambitious?
Yes, thank you very much. Ambitious. But having consulted with the federal government and a lot of private sector companies, I know it can be done. And Octo is awesome. So what can I say? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Any other questions for LVP? I have no question.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
Fantastic. Thank you again. I would like to ask, is it okay for us to rearrange the last part of the agenda here and discuss scheduling before we get into our discussion about tipped case reviews? Is that all right? Only because I think the scheduling might be a little bit of a quicker conversation, and then we can save time for the other item. Is that all right? Thank you so much. So I would open it to the committee. Are we willing / interested in meeting in person? That's one question. I guess thumbs up or thumbs down? Can we conduct a poll that way? Cool. So I think I got majority thumbs up with a fair amount of indifference. So with that being said, if we do, and like I said, I would prefer to meet in person. Is there what space is available? And would this time and day of the month still work for folks if like there's travel involved or anything like that?
Mr. Chairman, at the Marion Berry Building at 441 4th Street, the 11th floor has very large conference rooms that I think would maybe accommodate social distancing, mask wearing, and allowing people to have, good circulation of air. So that's one possible location. We'd be happy to reserve a space there if you chose to meet there.
441 4th Street. Trying to
It is
picture.
by Judiciary Square Metro Station, by the court building.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great.
So the other, wherever we have it, we have to be able to videotape the meeting. Is that correct for the Open Meetings Act? So we just need to be able to do that so we can post it for the public. Are we still open to once a month or maybe every other month of the meeting as well? Maybe.
I could like to continue once a month.
Okay.
Yes. Ms. Palacios, do you know if that those conference rooms have, I mean, I'm sure they have like projectors and that sort of thing, but like recording equipment, we'd have to bring that.
I don't know about the recording equipment.
We can look.
We could find out and get back to you.
Great. Okay, so let's, I guess, if we can look into those things, I would like to propose that, hopefully for next meeting, if that's all right. And we'll see as far as the timeline, if that works out, if we have to push it back, but that would certainly be my preference, and it seems like that is almost the majority consensus as well, or close to it. Cool.
Can I, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I would say we could also, to try to get the public more involved, allow the virtual option for any public individuals to watch us live as well. I'm assuming that'll be part of the looking into the, can we record / broadcast live?
Yes.
Okay. And we would be happy to have any meetings here as well at DOES. But we're happy to travel to 441 to the Marion Berry building also.
Can I make a comment and ask a question?
Please.
I'm fine meeting in person. I think it would make sense if we did that if an agenda item was a discussion or an action item. I think these presentations that we've been having have been good, but I'm kind of wondering where we're going with all this, and are we going to be developing recommendations or reviewing anything? I don't know, just as a member of this, I'm starting to have a big question mark in my head as to kind of what the point of this is. So I'm just wondering what we're moving towards.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, so with our next agenda item, in discussing the case reviews, that will give us opportunity for much more targeted content discussion for what we came here for, right? So we're going to be looking at reviews of we're going to be reviewing cases of either, wage garnishment or other, investigations into restaurants based on, whether they're following the law. And as we review the policies and procedures within those investigations, we'll need to have more spirited discussion, if you will. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it just, as we're talking about meeting in person, I'm just thinking that type of conversation and discussion that you just referenced, that I think lends itself to be doing in person. But if it's just a presentation, then virtuals, at least from my perspective, is fine.
Yes, I agree, and I think from the head nods I see in my camera or screen that most folks agree with you. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Okay, so we will follow up via email on meeting in person, unless there are any other questions or comments. Fantastic. So that moving into that final agenda item, I I spoke with Alan just a little bit via email on conducting case reviews. I, if it's possible, um, can can the Office of Wage Hour just sort of give a very general outline of what an investigation might look like from start to finish? Very general, very general.
All right, so this is where we come in. We are the Office of Wage Hour. I'm the supervisor for that office. And just a little background about how this tip, tip portal and the investigation that we came about. So the original law was back in 2016, and we created a tip portal so those employers who had tip workers can submit their quarterly reports of that data. On the front end, we use the tip portal to do analysis of that data to ensure proper minimum wage is paid. So each year since 2016, the minimum wage is going up on July 1st. And after each quarterly reports are received, we're using the portal to do an analysis to see in general terms if those rates paid to each of those workers are at least minimum wage. When we come up with any discrepancies from our analysis in the portal, we do additional investigation directly to employers to first acknowledge receipt of their reports and also to let them know that the information submitted shows that there may be a discrepancy. I actually have one of our compliance specialists here, Ms. Jamaica Ingram. She's going to help to explain just on a high level what that documentation may look like and the type of corrective action that we're looking for from district employers.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Okay.
Okay, so like Mr. King said, we notify the employer that there may be a discrepancy when we see that they weren't paid the minimum wage or the tip base rate. When we see that our office, the Office of Wage Hour issues an initial determination, we let them know what we found. So we send the employee's name. Sometimes it's one employee, sometimes it's more. The employee's name, the data that they sent us, and the amount that we see that the employee is owed. If they agree, then first, we also send the amount that the employee is owed, and also the information to send the checks. They can send the checks in the name of the employee, or they can send the checks as a whole. If there's more than one employee, to the DC Treasurer's office. If the employer wants to appeal, then they can appeal with the Office of Administrative Hearings. If we do not hear back from that office, the employer, which is within 30 days of the date of the initial determination that they receive, then we issue an administrative order. If they do not pay, then that's a $500 fine for each offense. If they do not provide supporting documentation, if they do not agree with our determination, they also can be given a penalty, which is also $500 for each offense. Try to keep it general. Really quick.
So that is high level, what those investigations look like systematically, and then also our follow-up approach to individual employers. So we'll open the floor for questions.
And also by law, we also have to receive paper reports as well. So we also do an analysis of the tip report in a paper form as well.
So I think for that, that was perfect for what we need. Thank you very much from both of you. Um, I think we should discuss how, so what does a review of this process look like for this committee? I think we need to first understand um, what you gave a presentation in a previous meeting on the portal and how employers can access that. But now, what does sorry, I'm struggling to formulate my idea. What does it look like for us to review and investigate them? So I think that um, we should establish a timeline. So whether it's do we want to go back um, and look at investigations from the previous year or 5 years, whatever that is. We should think about what sorts of outcomes or have a range of outcomes. So we should look at investigations that resulted in fines or other punishment. We should look at investigations that resulted in maybe an appeal that was won or and these other the various outcomes that you could have. So if you could compile for us cases that fit within these criteria and give us a breadth of what we're looking at, that would be good. I'm sorry that I'm sort of fumbling through that, but did that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it made sense, Mr. Chairman. I think the notes from Alan were very helpful to help us keep the big picture in mind as well. I like to think in very practical terms. I always tell my staff, laws and policies are wonderful, but if they don't have if they don't change the outcomes for district residents and workers, who cares, right? So I think that one can guess, and not being a tipped wage worker myself right now, but one can guess that conditions are difficult. The stress on the job is difficult right now. The pressure around COVID is difficult. So from what I know from certain workers is that they have a hard time understanding how to interact with district government. There is a lot of confusion about where to go, who to call. OHR sometimes gets calls about wage theft, and we redirect them to DOES. So if DOES maybe could also give us just a quick picture of how's the volume of questions? What's the volume of concerns that you get, and how can we better explain to workers how to come to us if something goes wrong, or if their wages, they're not getting their wages, or the wages are stolen, because that happens. So I think in very, nuts and bolts, what does it look like every day when DOES gets these complaints?
So, I mean, one of the things that we have a multiple strategy to engage workers. We have public education, so we actually have grantees on the ground that are meeting with employees. Our staff meeting with employees. We're meeting with employers. We have increased our random audits because we do know that during this time it's been very difficult for workers to sort of figure out how to file a claim. And so in doing our random audits, we are also doing employee surveys. So once we receive the employee's information, we're sending those surveys out to the employees' emails directly to receive that. And we're doing this not only for minimum wage and TIP portal, but for sick leave, for all of our laws. So what we do know is that wage theft is a serious issue. What we do know is that we, even with the continuous of public education and the like, we just have to be very vigilant in getting the message out. So we're doing Twitter, we're doing Facebook, we're doing Instagram. We're meeting with groups, we're partnering with groups. We just did a piece around restaurant workers and hunger and food industry. We participated in that. So we're doing everything possible to let workers know that we are available to them to assist them. We're doing everything possible to let employers know that this would not be tolerated. And so that include using all our remedies around whether that is working with DCRA, around license revocation or suspension, or we're putting liens on properties, which the wage theft law provides to us. So we're using everything affordable to us. Over the past few years, we've actually added 2 additional attorneys onto our staff so that we can pursue these matters civilly as well. We actually just launched over 500 investigations to make sure that individuals are getting the notice of hire documents, which is very important for workers to understand how much they're getting paid, when they're getting paid, and so then we're about to do an additional audits around paychecks. So it's so many ways that we're doing this to try to do that, and of course, working in partnership with the committee to expand the network, to make sure that we're reaching everyone possible. So that we're definitely open to doing more.
So then let me ask you, is there anything that you would like this committee's feedback on pertaining to essentially anything or everything that you just said? Is there something that you see what could be valuable for us to discuss and then give recommendations on?
I think that I think that partnerships are important, and I see this as a very viable partnership. I think that we'll share our policies and our strategies. I think that the red ink is important to make sure that we are being proactive in engaging both employers and employees. And in particular, Mr. Chair, you're a worker, so you're hearing things that they will definitely not tell us. Our staff go out at night when someone said they're not open. And that's not something that we ask them to do, to make sure that the restaurant isn't open. We do drive-bys, we're doing, all these other things. But I think to make sure that we are affording the most vulnerable population, the remedies that they need. So I think that we should look at our auditing strategies and what the law provides to us. The law is very prescriptive. We have one of the most prescriptive laws in the country, where we have to make determinations within a certain time. The employees have to respond with a certain time. Our remedies and fines, our administrative processes are defined. And so I think that examining those, looking at that, looking how effective that is, definitely will always help and lead to us doing things better as an office, to support workers in a district.
Follow question. Okay.
So we,
Chairman, may I?
And also we have a series of roundtables, and I think participating in those. So we have one coming up with the Restaurant Association, and for this year we're reaching out to individuals who are not members of the Restaurant Association, because in the past we just had, and so we realized that there's dual populations of businesses that are not part of the Restaurant Association. So we have a strategy of engaging them as well. So participating in those discussions with them would be very helpful as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, please.
So to continue on that track of thought, I think it is important that when we make the information about these meetings more widely available to the community, we would have more participation and maybe comments, questions, follow-up needed, etc. For example, we with the outreach team and other departments at OHR are doing, I think we're doing like office hours, like a clinic setting, questions and answers at Martin Luther King Library in Chinatown on some Saturdays. So the Office of Human Rights also brings the staff with questions and answers, and I'm sure that from some of the questions we're going to be reaching out also to the OES, because sometimes they come with one problem, but then the problem is linked to something else. From I don't have my wages to now I talked about it and I lost my job. So yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. But I think back to what Jonathan was saying was that in order, at least for, for folks to come to these meetings and have concrete questions, we have to be doing concrete work or, addressing something that's concrete. So I still, I haven't figured it out myself yet, but if anyone has, if there's, imagine a perfect scenario where we all come together at 441 4th Street next week, and we're in a big old socially distanced room. What can we spend, 35 to 45 minutes assessing, discussing, and then offering, a recommendation or suggestion to improving a policy or improving a procedure, improving outcomes for workers.
I'll take a stab. So if we do what's in this statute, we take a case for, or two cases at the next meeting, let's say. Maybe the wage hour team can correct me if this is supposed to be a case that's already been closed or one that is being conducted currently. Maybe I assume it should be one that's already closed, but Daniel or Watts can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Be one
even
that's
for
already
FOIA requests, we don't reveal information from ongoing investigations. So it would need to be a closed case.
Okay. So if we, for example, I'm just throwing things out there, review a case at the next meeting, review the documentation that we're able to review, and then is it, every member that's reviewing the case at once? Is it sending the information before the meeting and then coming together to discuss it at the next meeting? I'm just throwing things out there.
I'd say send it before. We can all review individually and then come together.
Yeah, I think having kind of maybe even a couple of them and if it has to be, because I think it says in there that they have to be anonymous. So if the names have to be scrubbed, I mean, that's fine. But I think just to kind of see what was reported, what did the investigation look like, and what was the final outcome, and then we could review that to get a sense of, what's working and potentially what could be improved if there is an area for improvement. And that might be, more collaboration between district government agencies or more thorough investigations, whatever it may be. I don't know yet, but I think having the chance to kind of review a couple cases from start to finish would give us greater insight.
And to the Director Palacios' point, ensuring that we develop a protocol where it matters, so that we review the case and then what happens to our recommendations, and ensuring that DOES takes it to heart and is able to implement some of the recommendations. So we should also develop that protocol. So I don't know if we needed to discuss that before we do the case review, or if we take the next meeting as like a test for ourselves and see how that goes, and then say, okay, here are the protocols we should set up to ensure that any recommendations out of the case review are properly implemented.
Yes, Alan, I think we should sort of consider next month as a test and like a trial run. But part of that trial run definitely should be like a comeback to whatever we discussed this first time, right? So let's maybe I would say arbitrarily, we would each receive the documentation before next meeting, discuss next meeting, at the following meeting, offer some recommendation, and then what sounds fair? 60 days after that to see progress, or to have a review of the review. I don't know. Is that? I mean, I'm just throwing an arbitrary timeline out, right? 30 days to discuss, 30 days to uh, um, come up with a recommendation, and then 60 days for that recommendation to be implemented.
Sounds fair.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's always good to be ambitious. So I say 30 days for a response on how it will be implemented, and any expected challenges or, roadblocks, because it takes, it's going to be a dialogue, right?
Right. And then with the idea that we're not like just conducting reviews of 2 or 3 cases next month and then sitting on them for 120 days, but that's an ongoing process, right? So 30 days after that, we're taking on new reviews, but also following those steps of service for the previous one. Nice. Mr. King, is it possible for you all to put together documentation for us for let's say 2 cases, closed cases, and what sort of time do you need to send that out?
I'm sure that we can. I know Mr. Watts, if he's still available, he had some information about something that we could send to you guys.
Yeah,
But I don't know where it's at in the review process.
Yeah, we can do 2 or 3. Normally what we have to do is go through a redaction process, with the general counsel to get that approved for public, and then, just make sure no identifying information is available, and then we'll send it to you. But we do have 2 to 3 cases that we could immediately, start sending to you.
Understood. So do you 7 days to do that, or 14 days to do that?
Because we're depending on another office to do a review,
Right.
so
Right.
14 days would be acceptable.
Okay. So on my calendar, we should hope to receive documentation by September 2nd. And then,
Anticipating what you need, we do have the first set ready for you within a day.
of 2 cases or 3
Mhm.
cases?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Oh, amazing. Well, heck, the sooner we get it, the sooner we can get to work.
Okay, great.
I love it. I think that answers pretty much everything that I have until, I get something in front of me that I can ask more concrete questions about. Does anyone else have anything? Off my screen here. Great. Thank you for these links and things in the chat. Those are useful. I will read them on my own time. All right. Well, it was great seeing you all again. Please have a pleasant afternoon. I move to adjourn. Can I? No, I can't move to adjourn the meeting. Yes, I can. I'm not sure. I lost my my own agenda here.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Somebody take over for me.
I second it.
This meeting is now adjourned. Have a great afternoon and look forward to hearing and seeing you all soon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On my birthday.